Enchanted gear is probably the single most important thing that you can achieve and get and master in all of Minecraft. And Minecraft has changed a lot in recent years, adding new enchantments and new gear that can be enchanted, including recently with the spear being added to the game. So I thought it would be a great time to go over all of the best enchantments for every single piece of gear in the game. I'm going to show you my recommendations of what should be enchanted on that gear, and I will tell you what every enchantment in the game does as we go through. If you enjoy these types of videos, help me out in getting the channel monetized. Drop a like on this video, click subscribe on the channel so you don't miss future ones like this, and let me know down in the comments below what else do you want to see in terms of guides and tutorials on the channel. All right, let's hop in. Okay, so we're going to keep things super short and sweet here. Here's how we're going to do this. I have every piece of wearable gear that can be enchanted laid out here, including some that maybe you guys don't even know about or think about very often as things that can be enchanted, but have benefits to do so. I'm going to go into the chest of each one. I'm going to tell you what every enchantment does, and then I'm going to tell you what enchantments I recommend that you put on your gear. Now, there is another component to this, one that I don't think I need to show you here in the video, but I need you to know about that exists. There is an optimal way, an optimal order in which to add every single enchantment to every piece of gear in the game to use the least amount of levels possible. If you have a crazy XP farm, this probably doesn't matter to you. But for most people, especially when you first get into enchanting in a new world, this actually matters a ton. So I will leave a link down in the description below to a Minecraft enchanting calculator. It works the same for Java Edition and Bedrock Edition, so don't worry about that. And there's a lot of different ones out of there, but essentially all you do is you select your item, you select what enchantment you want, you hit calculate, and it will tell you the order in which to combine either the books to the item or the books together to then put on the item to use the least amount of levels possible. This is a great resource. I highly recommend you use it when enchanting your stuff. Okay, we're going to start with the helmet here. So first of all, we need to talk about the different protections. You have protection, which will offer you generally better defense or resistance against any kind of damage that you may take. So physical damage, magic damage, projectile damage, fire damage. It protects you against all of those things to a standard amount. And then you do have additional protections that are more focused. So fire protection protects you against fire, blast protection protects you against explosives, projectile protection protects you against projectiles. Those are all pretty self-explanatory. Fire protection will protect you against fire better than protection will. So even though protection will protect, I'm saying protect a lot, even though protection will protect you against fire some, it will make it do less damage to you. Fire protection does that even better. So keep that in mind. The helmet can also add respiration on it, the highest level of which is respiration 3. This allows you to breathe underwater, or I guess hold your breath underwater for a longer period of time. You can also add aqua affinity, which allows you to mine blocks underwater faster than without aqua affinity. Finally, you have Unbreaking 3 and Mending. These can be put on absolutely every item in the game that can be enchanted. I think except for a carved pumpkin, but otherwise it could go on everything. Unbreaking 3 makes the item take less durability loss when it takes damage than not having Unbreaking does. So if you're using a pickaxe or you get hit by something to your piece of armor, those things reduce the durability of that item. The higher Unbreaking level that you have, the less likely it is that that item takes a durability hit. So very important to put Unbreaking 3, again, the highest here, on everything. And then also you have Mending, which allows you to repair durability on an item by getting XP. So for example, your armor takes damage because you get hit a lot, but you kill an enemy and XP pops out of them. Those XP points, instead of going to your XP bar, those XP points will instead first go towards repairing your gear. And then once your gear is repaired, then that XP will make it into your XP bar. So again, this works on everything. It could be a pickaxe, it could be a sword, whatever it is. And it works from any source of XP that you can get, whether it be from villager trading, from skulk, from killing mobs, from a furnace, whatever. All of that XP will go towards mending your things first, and then it will go towards your XP bar. The one caveat is for your armor, for your stuff that you wear, it always goes towards that. Whereas things that you hold in your hand, such as a pickaxe or a sword, it has to be in your hand to get the XP to mend it up. If it's not in your hand, if it's just in your inventory in your hotbar or your hotbar, it does not mend those things. One last one here that applies to all of your armor. So helmet, chest plate, leggings, and boots, you could put thorns on there too. Thorns just makes it so if you get attacked, the enemy takes damage in return. And then one final note, the recommendation I'm going to give you on your armor is as a set. So some of these armors, I'm going to change around something like what protection we use a little bit, because I think it matters for your everyday play. And some of these pieces, I will recommend you having 2 different options that you can change to, but not with the helmet. The helmet, I'm going to recommend that you put on protection 4, respiration 3, aqua affinity, unbreaking 3, and mending. I personally do not like using thorns because it doesn't really help you in a fight all that much. And there may be times where you do not want a mob that hits you to take damage, such as trying to get a zombie into a boat or a minecart or something of that nature. Sometimes you're going to try to use hostile mobs for things in the game. And if every time they hit you, they take damage, that mob may end up dying when you actually didn't want it to die. So I leave thorns off. Moving on to the chest plate, all of the same enchantments apply. So no new enchants to tell you about. But what I do recommend, instead of using protection 4, I actually recommend using fire protection 4 instead. I think this is important because sometimes you're going to fall into lava. It could be down in a cave in the overworld. It could be when you're traveling in the nether. If you fall in lava, you're going to burn, you're going to take damage, and you need time to get out of the lava so you don't die. So having at least one piece of fire protection gear on helps you take a lot less damage versus having this as a protection piece of gear. But I do also recommend that you set up a second chest plate that has protection 4 on it as well. Now, if you're going to do something where you know you're going to be fighting mobs and you don't have a lot of risk of fire, let's say you're going to spawn in the wither and you're going to actually fight it, or you're going to fight the dragon, you might want to take the fire protection chest plate off and put the protection 4 chest plate on. That way you take less damage when those things hit you. You have no risk of fire, so get rid of that. Otherwise, your chest plate can only have unbreaking 3 and mending on it as additional enchants, so you'll always put that on. So have 2 chest plates, one with fire protection, one with protection. Moving on to pants. Almost all of the enchants are the same, except for an enchantment called Swift Sneak, which simply makes it to where when you're crouched and you're moving, you move faster while crouched. Swift Sneak has 3 levels. Obviously, the higher level Swift Sneak, the faster you move when crouched. This is great for building, great for mining, great for a lot of things. You can only get it from ancient city loot chests, so you will want to check there for it. I think it's a must-have, so definitely worth getting. Otherwise, all the other enchants are the same. Unbreaking 3, mending. I recommend your pants having protection 4 on them, but I also recommend another fire protection 4 pair of pants too. If you're going into the nether and your focus is traveling and not fighting, if you have 2 pieces of fire protection 4 gear on, it takes an incredibly long time for fire to actually kill you. So you could fall into the middle of a lava lake and have plenty of time to place some blocks down underneath yourself and get out the lava, or even swim to shore from the lava. So if you're very prone to falling in lava, I recommend having this available as well. Otherwise, most of the time, you're going to wear your protection 4 pants. Boots do have a few unique enchantments. So your boots are going to have protection 4. And I think I mentioned this before, but you cannot have more than one type of protection on. It's a mutually exclusive enchantment. So that's why we're not putting multiple types of protection on. Your boots can also have feather falling, the highest tier of that being level 4. Just means you take less damage when you fall down from height that would normally damage you. Great to have, especially you guys that are accident prone for falling off of builds in high places. There's also Depth Strider 3. This makes you move faster when traveling in water. Very nice to have if you're in water frequently, if you use water for farms or whatever. This is definitely a must. You're going to want to have it. Of course, mending and unbreaking are here. And then there's 2 enchants here that are options, but I don't really use them that much. There's Soul Speed, which makes you run faster on soul sand or soul soil. But the thing is whenever this is active, whenever you're running on that, your boots do take durability loss. And if you do a lot of running on soul sand or soul soil, it'll beat your boots up pretty quick and even break them. So I don't really like using this. It's not useful to me. Frostwalker 2 is also another nice one in certain situations. There may be a lot of times where you don't want Frostwalker because you want to go down into the water and swim. But what Frostwalker does is you can walk on water. It turns the water around you in an area around you into ice temporarily, and you can run on water. So it is really nice. It can be very convenient, but I usually find it more annoying than it is convenient. So maybe you'll want to have this around as a possibility to use on like a spare pair of boots, but otherwise, I don't really think it's worth it. I don't use it. Next is the shield. Super easy. Unbreaking 3 and mending are the only possibilities. Same goes for the elytra. Unbreaking 3 and mending are the only possibilities. Next is the sword. We do have a lot of things on here. So first of all, the mutually exclusive options that you have. Sharpness, which makes you do more damage to everything. Bane of Arthropods, which makes you do more damage to spiders. And then Smite, which makes you do more damage to undead enemies. Mobs in Minecraft are generally just kind of easy to kill anyways. So Smite and especially Bane of Arthropods don't really have a place in the game. You'll never, ever use Bane of Arthropods. There's no reason for it. I would never worry about it. Smite, you may want in very specific situations. Mostly if you're going to go kill wither skeletons to try to get wither skeleton skulls, or if you're going to fight the wither. Smite's nice to have for those situations, but I have a better solution for you for this. So I would never put Smite on a sword. I'm going to tell you a different solution in a little bit. So sharpness 5, 100% of the time. Then you have looting. Looting 3 being the highest. Looting makes it so any mobs that drop things either have a higher chance to drop the thing if the mob doesn't always drop the thing. So like if you have a 50% chance to get something, it increases your chance to get that thing to be even better. And it also can increase the number of items that a mob drops. Let's say a creeper usually drops 1 gunpowder. Maybe it's more likely to drop 2 or 3 with looting. So looting is a must. You definitely want it. Knockback 2 simply knocks enemies away from you when you hit them. Some people don't like this because they don't want the enemy to get flung away from them. I kind of like it because if a creeper sneaks up on me and I don't know, and I have a chance to turn around and hit him once, it knocks him back and keeps him from exploding. And then I can go and hit him again to kill him. If you don't have knockback, you may turn to hit that creeper and he may blow up in your face still. It's not going to kill you, but it's going to blow up the stuff around you. So it could just be really annoying. So I like having knockback 2. And then fire aspect 2. Fire aspect 2 will set enemies on fire when you hit them, allowing the fire to potentially kill them. It could be great if enemies are running away from you or whatever. It's not really necessary, but I usually include it anyways. Then you also have Unbreaking 3 and Mending. So these are the enchantments that I like to put on my sword. The spear actually works in the same way. It can take all the same enchantments: Sharpness, Smite, and Arthropods. So again, I always put Sharpness on it. Looting, you can put on there. Fire aspect, knockback, mending, and Unbreaking 3. You can put all of these on your spear. Now, an optional enchant that you can put on your spear is lunge. Let me explain. So what lunge does is it makes you kind of lunge forward or dash forward with the spear and does an attack. A lot of people like the idea of using it for movement, even more so than they like using it as a method of attack. Here's the thing though. It uses a lot of durability, even on the strongest spear, even on the netherite. It uses a lot of durability. It's going to wear down your spear really fast, meaning it's not really great for movement to begin with. Also, your regular basic standard attack becomes the lunge, meaning that you have no way to just hit mobs in front of you and not take that big durability hit. You only can lunge forward and do that big durability damage to your spear. It basically makes it ineffective as a weapon to like actually fight stuff with. It makes it kind of useless as a weapon to fight stuff with. So this is the ultimate problem with the spear, is it's not really better as a weapon than the sword is. It has a further reach, so it's kind of a little bit better, but a sword is honestly just as good, if not better, because it hits multiple enemies easier. It's just easier to use in general than the spear is. And then the thing that makes the spear special, the lunge, doesn't really make it a better weapon. And it's not really great for movement either. So I'll kind of leave that up to you guys. But at the end of the day, here's the thing that matters. If you want to use your spear as your normal everyday weapon, do not put lunge on it. If you want to try to use it for dashing around and doing fun, crazy stuff, put lunge on it. That's basically where we stand. Next is the bow. It has its own like damage increase enchantment. It's called Power 5, just makes it do more damage. You have punch 2. It's the same thing as knockback for a sword or the spear. It just knocks enemies backwards. It's called punch. You have flame. It's the same thing as fire aspect. You shoot an enemy, it catches on fire, it burns. And then you could put unbreaking 3 on it. Now, the bow has a mutually exclusive option that you have to make. You either could put mending or you can put infinity. You cannot put both. Mending, you know what that does. It makes it so your bow stays healed up. Infinity makes it so you don't consume arrows. You can have 1 arrow in your inventory. Only regular arrows count. The tipped arrows do not count towards this, but you only need that 1 arrow in your inventory. Infinity is a fairly nice enchantment to have in the early game because arrows are kind of hard to come by. But in the late game, you may have ways to get arrows pretty much infinitely anyways. Villager trading, a skeleton farm, raid farm. There's a ton of different farms that give an infinite amount of arrows. So at that point, maybe switching over to mending is a better idea for you. The key thing here being that with infinity, if you use your bow a decent amount, you will eventually break your bow and you're going to have to go through and enchant a whole new one or use a whole bunch of levels to like repair it. And it can be a little annoying to have to go through and do everything again. Whereas when you have mending, you do have to upkeep arrows, but at least for the average person, you never really need more than a stack. So with infinity, you only have 1 arrow. With mending, you have 1 stack of arrows. They take up the same amount of inventory space no matter what. So that's why I usually like to just go with mending later in the game, because 1 inventory slot is 1 inventory slot. What does it matter if there's 64 arrows in it or 1 arrow in it? It works the same. And this way I don't have to replace my bow at any point. Then you have the crossbow, which honestly is a kind of useless weapon. It's worse than the bow in pretty much every way. But you have piercing 4, which allows your arrows to pierce through multiple enemies. Or you could take multi-shot, which makes that 1 arrow split out into 3 arrows when it comes out. It only consumes 1 arrow, which is nice. And it can hit multiple enemies that are more in like a spread out fashion versus piercing being able to hit multiple enemies in a straight line. So you have to pick one or the other. You cannot pick both. There's quick charge, which allows you to reload the crossbow faster. And then there's unbreaking and mending. But generally speaking, a crossbow is better than an unenchanted bow. But a fully enchanted bow does massively more damage faster than a crossbow does, meaning that outside of like the very early game, it's pretty useless. Then you have the mace. This thing is pretty hard to get and honestly is more for the memes than it is an actual like effective weapon to use. So I'll probably never recommend that you really get the mace unless you're just looking to like do something funny. But here's what you got. So you have density 5, the highest level of density, and density essentially makes it to where when you do your like slam down attack, basically with the mace, the further down you fall and then hit an enemy, that distance that you fall increases the amount of damage you do to the enemy that you hit, allowing you to do more damage. Density makes it do more damage the further you fall. So you can see the problem here being almost every mob in the game in Minecraft is pretty easy to kill with just a regular sword. So density doesn't really provide any benefit. You can maybe do more damage like the dragon or the wither or something if you can land the hit, or the warden if you wanted to fight it for some reason. That's why it's really for the memes. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really like help you out any. And you have breach, which makes the mace do more damage to armored enemies. This may have some PvP implications. I'm not a big Minecraft PvPer, so I don't know how effective that is versus say using a sword or something in PvP instead. But it does make an enemy's armor less effective. You can only pick density or breach. You can't pick both. There's also an option for Bane of Arthropods and Smite 5, but again, you're better off with a sword for regular everyday play than the mace anyways. Then you have an enchantment called Wind Burst that you can put on there. Basically makes it to where when you do like a slam down attack, it will launch enemies in the area up in the air. Guess it's kind of cool, but again, I don't really know what the benefit of that is so much. Then you have Fire Aspect, Unbreaking, and Mending. So anyways, I've never really used the mace any time, so I don't really see it as like a valuable weapon to have, but that's what you got. The trident, on the other hand, does have at least some uses. It can be fun. First of all, you have Impaling 5. This is basically sharpness for the trident. Just makes it do more damage. But it does work differently than sharpness. Sharpness works all the time. Impaling does not. Impaling on Bedrock Edition works whenever the mob that you're hitting is in water in some way, including when it's raining. So if you're hitting a mob that is in water, that is touching water, it will then do more damage to them as opposed to if they were not in water. And then when it's raining, all mobs are considered to be quote unquote in water. Therefore, it will do more damage to them. Now we have the 3 unique trident enchantments, and they don't work together in kind of interesting ways. So you have Riptide, Channeling, and Loyalty. Riptide cannot be used with Channeling or Loyalty. So if you put Riptide on, you cannot use either one of these. But these 2, Channeling and Loyalty, you can use together. So first of all, Riptide, what does it do? It's kind of cool and it's kind of fun. It makes you do this dash-like movement whenever you would have normally gone to throw your trident. So normally your trident, you hold down your right-click button and it throws it. Riptide makes it so you can't throw your trident, and instead, if you're in water, you do this like big dash with it. When you're in water, like swimming, it helps you move a little bit faster in water, although it's not really very worth it. The really fun and most useful way to use Riptide is when it's raining or thunderstorming outside and you have an elytra. You can literally fly through the air at such insane, crazy speeds that you can go thousands of blocks in seconds as long as your world can load fast enough. It is truly insane and one of the more fun things in the game to do. I absolutely love it. It's a fun thing to play around with. But other than that, it's not really very like effective of a thing to use. It's more of a fun thing, or for like crazy fast travel if it happens to be raining. Channeling and Loyalty can go together. We'll talk about Loyalty first. Loyalty basically makes it to where when you throw your trident, you don't have to go pick it back up. It just automatically comes back to you. Normally when you throw your trident, like it's gone. It's out of your inventory. You have to go pick it up again if you throw it. With Loyalty, it comes back to you automatically, which is really nice. And then Channeling makes it to where if you throw your trident and hit an enemy with it during a thunderstorm, it will channel lightning down and strike that enemy with lightning. This is actually a way that you can make charged creepers on your own if you wanted to make them for some reason. I've done it before. It's very fun. So when you kind of combine these different things together, and Impaling 5 trident with Loyalty and Channeling, for example, it's definitely not going to kill mobs faster, even in water. It's not going to kill mobs faster than just using a sword will. But it is a one weapon solution that gives you ranged damage and melee damage at the same time. It does okay damage in water. Its damage out of the water is really not that great. You're gonna have to do several hits on enemies to kill them. But you do have that like cool utility. It's a very cool utility weapon, either with the Channeling or with the Riptide. So having an enchanted trident or 2 is always a good thing to have around. And of course it can use Unbreaking and Mending. Next is the axe, and we do have 3 new enchantments being introduced with the axe. You have Efficiency 5, which will make the axe chop wood faster. Efficiency 5 is a must, 100% got to have it. And then you can either pick Fortune 3 or Silk Touch. And honestly, you're going to do both of them because you're going to make one axe that has Fortune and one axe that has Silk Touch. Honestly, the axe is probably the one tool you don't need to do this with. All the other ones you probably do. So your axe, you would put, say, Fortune on. Fortune makes it so the thing that you mine up gives you more of that particular thing. Again, it doesn't really apply to the axe too much because there's nothing you really use the axe on to do that. So I'm going to give you a different example, which would be with the pickaxe. When you mine an ore with your pickaxe, you will get more of that ore than if you did not use Fortune. So a diamond mined without Fortune, you're always going to just get 1 diamond out of it. Whereas if you mine a diamond ore with Fortune 3 on it, you might get 1, or you might get like 3 or 4 diamonds out of it. So it's really nice to have. It's a must. It's very, very efficient thing to use. You're going to want to use it. The other thing is Silk Touch. Silk Touch makes it so whatever block you break with that tool, you get that exact block back. Because that's not always the case with tools. If you dig grass with a shovel, you will get dirt, not grass. If you break stone with the pickaxe, you will get cobblestone, not stone. If you break a leaf with shears or with your axe, you will get maybe a sapling or a stick or something, but the leaf block gets destroyed. If you have Silk Touch, you will get the leaf block. So that's how Fortune and Silk Touch work. For your axe, you're going to have Efficiency 5. You're going to pick Fortune or Silk Touch, or make both if you want them. Of course, Unbreaking and Mending. But an axe can also be used as a weapon. It does about as much damage as the sword does on Bedrock Edition. I think it does slightly more single target damage, but it doesn't do the multi-target hitting that the sword can sometimes do. So with your axe, you have the option of Smite, Sharpness, or Bane of Arthropods. The way that I do this is I will put smite on my axe, and then I will almost always have an axe with me because I always want to have my tools with me, right? The idea here is that I get attacked by mobs that I don't really care what they drop for me. Let's say the Wither. The Wither doesn't really have a drop, right? Or it drops another star at the end of every fight. It doesn't matter if you have looting or not on it. So the Wither, I will fight with my Smite 5 axe because it does more damage than my Sharpness 5 sword. So now I don't have to make a separate Smite 5 sword to bring with me to a fight. I can just have Smite on my axe and I effectively get the same result. Now, you could technically use this on like Wither skeletons or zombies or whatever as well, but just keep in mind, your axe cannot have looting on it. So if you care about what that enemy drops, you're not going to want to use the axe. You're going to want to use the sword. So ultimately, my recommendation, Smite 5, Efficiency 5, Fortune 3 or Silk Touch or both for 2 different axes, and then Unbreaking and Mending. These next ones we can kind of breeze through. Your pickaxe has Efficiency 5, Fortune or Silk Touch, Unbreaking 3, and Mending. You're going to want 2 picks, one with Fortune, one with Silk Touch on it. Shovel, same thing, and you're going to want a Fortune shovel and a Silk Touch shovel. The hoe, again, same thing. You'll want 1 for Fortune 3, 1 for Silk Touch. The hoe is the preferred tool in the game to use for breaking leaves. So if you want to break leaves really fast to get a lot of saplings, you'll use Fortune. If you want to break leaves really fast to get a lot of the leaf block, you'll use Silk Touch. Another thing to keep in mind is you can use any one of these tools to break crops to get the Fortune 3 effect on those crops. I have a separate video about that. It came out just before this one. If you want to know more about it, go back and watch that. Then last but not least, the items that a lot of people don't think about. Well, the fishing rod, most people do. You have Unbreaking 3 and Mending, which everybody knows. But you also have Luck of the Sea 3. This makes you more likely to catch treasure-based loot rather than junk-based loot. So you'll be less likely to pull up things like lily pads and fish, and more likely to pull up things like enchanted books or an enchanted bow or even an enchanted fishing rod. Then you have Lure 3, which simply makes the fish bite more frequently. You cast the rod, it takes almost no time, and a fish is swimming over to it for you to catch. Using Lure 3 while it's raining, because you actually get an increased chance of bites when it's raining outside, is absolutely insane. You basically cast the rod and almost pull it right back out again. It's got a fish on it. So these are both really nice to have. And then Unbreaking 3 and Mending. And then the last 3 items that a lot of people don't think about. One is Flint and Steel. You can put Unbreaking 3 and Mending on it. I wouldn't recommend it though. There's no really need to do it. Some people think it may be useful to do if you have a gold farm that uses Flint and Steel to start it up. Honestly, it's not worth the time and effort. I wouldn't bother. Don't do it. Then you have shears, which can have Efficiency 5 on them, and Unbreaking 3 and Mending. Shears can be used for several things. Most people use them for shearing sheep. They used to be the best tool to use for getting leaves, but they're not anymore because you use the hoe for leaves. This changed many years ago. So you can't put Efficiency 5 on your shears if you're using it for something like leaves, but it's just better to use the hoe because the hoe has more durability than the shears do. And then you can put Unbreaking 3 and Mending, which are nice to put on there if you're going to be using the shears for sheep. Again, though, I will note, if you're going to use the shears for the purpose of putting them in an automatic farm, maybe you're shearing a bee's nest to get honeycomb, or you're using it for an automatic sheep farm, or automatic wool farm with sheep, it's not worth the time, in my opinion, to put the enchants on there. So I wouldn't do it. So good to have as just like a tool, like just to have a maxed out pair of shears. Keep it in your inner chest or something, but you're not going to use it very often. And then last but not least, a lot of people won't think about this guy, the brush. The brush is, of course, used to dust off the suspicious gravel and suspicious sand to find, various treasures that those things give. You can put Unbreaking 3 and Mending on the brush. Honestly, Unbreaking 3 is kind of worth it because the brush has a kind of low durability. It breaks pretty quick. Unbreaking 3 helps out quite a lot. So if you're going to use a brush, definitely put Unbreaking 3 on it. And if you're going to do that, you might as well put Mending on it too, so you don't have to craft a new brush and add a new enchantment to it. So definitely worth it to put Unbreaking 3 and Mending. Anyways, that's every enchant in the game explained and exactly what I prefer to put on my gear. So hopefully this helped you out. If it did, drop me down a comment down below. Let me know if you have changed your mind or learned anything from this particular video in terms of the way that you normally like to do things. And if you'd like to help the channel get monetized, which is a new channel, it's not monetized yet, just drop a like on the video, drop the comment, and click the subscribe button. Like 90% of you guys watching this aren't subscribed yet, so just help a Prowler out. Click subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. I'll keep putting out more tutorials for you guys that are absolutely amazing, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.